It's now time for The Journal, WBGU-TV's award-winning public affairs program, with your host, Steve Kendall. This is where your community matters. Local people, local issues.
Hello and welcome to The Journal. I'm Steve Kendall. Veterans Day is Sunday, November 11th, and the organization known as Veterans of Foreign Wars of America, or VFW, has been assisting those who served our country for nearly 120 years. Joining us from the VFW are State Commander David Root, Department Membership Director Colleen Wiley, and District 1 Commander Hank Wetzel. We want to thank you all for being here today. Of course, Veterans Day, a time to celebrate and salute our veterans, but the VFW has been doing that for a long, long time. So talk a little about the history of the organization, its origin, because it started right here in Ohio, I understand.
Yes, it did.
Yeah.
1899, a group of 14 gentlemen in the Columbus area got together to discuss what needed to be done for the returning soldiers from the Spanish-American War, in this particular case from Cuba. That first meeting branched out. Other organizations were started similar in different areas over the next year or two, but eventually by mid-19-teens, it became all one organization. They slowly got together and finally formed just one organization, and it ended up being called Veterans of Foreign Wars of the United States. But the initial seed was the one in Columbus. So.
And what was the purpose for that? I mean, what was the thing that brought them together initially?
The returning soldiers, many of them were wounded. They were, because of that, unable to get jobs. They were homeless. There were no benefits at that time. And they met solely to do something about that. And they began legislative work, lobbying for the veterans returning and getting benefits for them. Eventually, that work has been what we've always been about. The GI Bill after World War II was one of our biggest, and it's been changed and added to and improved over the years. Most recent one was the one since 9/11, which we call the post 9/11 GI Bill, and added quite a bit to it and made some changes, brought in family members as well as the veterans themselves. So.
Yeah, which when you talk about the organization itself, I mean, and I know that membership is obviously your specific. I mean, who is eligible to be a member of the VFW now in the year 2018?
Well, there's several different things, but if it's a conflict, if you were involved in a conflict or a war, if you served overseas in a conflict area, or if you were in harm's way and you got that pay for that. So when they come home, they'll produce their DD-214. We'll look at that. We'll look at the medals that they've received, and we'll go from there and look at the time frames as well.
Okay. Because is the criteria serving outside of the United States? Is that the first criteria? Okay, Veterans of Foreign Wars, which is different, of course, than the American Legion, which is another organization.
Right.
But okay. And when you look at, because obviously service has been provided benefits for people from the Spanish-American War all the way through World War I, World War II, Korea, all of those different conflicts, Vietnam, now all the Persian Gulf, Afghanistan. Membership-wise, how do you go about making people aware of what's available to them? Because coming back, there are lots of resources, but this is one that has deep roots and goes back historically. So what's the way you approach prospective members, people who are coming back?
There's really quite a few different ways we do it. Number one is just getting the word out. Thanks to you, this type of thing. Very helpful. We participate in what we call yellow ribbons, which is we're working with the Guard and active duty members that are coming back or deploying, and they'll have yellow ribbon get-togethers, so all those people, and tell them what is available to them based on what they've earned at that point in their service. We try to participate in those as much as possible. We have membership booths set up at the fairs, community events and that type of thing. You've got one coming up this week with with the Ohio State Police. So.
Yep.
Okay, yeah. Because I noticed when I was looking at your website, which is vfwoh.org, it lists safety, firefighter, EMS. There's a little bit of information about that. So when you mention, law enforcement, that sort of thing, what's the angle of that then?
Some of the, and along with membership, we have programs that the Veterans of Foreign Wars does. Okay. And I think that is one of our highlights. That gets us out into the community where the public and other hopefully projective members will look at us and say, oh my gosh, they're just not a canteen. You just don't go there and drink beer and tell war stories. We actually get out and we do programs. And Law Enforcement and Firefighter of the Year is a program that we do every year. Okay. There's also youth activities that we do. There's the Voice of Democracy, the Patriots Pen. High school kids all the way down to junior high level are able to write essays or do a video speech, and they can receive a lot of nice scholarship from the Veterans of Foreign Wars Department of Ohio. Yeah,
because I know the high school, when it does its academic awards at the end of the year, there are always representatives from the VFW giving scholarships to. Yeah, and I know that in several cases at our school, I'm sure that it's representative of everybody, that they win state level awards and that sort of thing. Right. So it is a program that gets it out there. Mr. Wetzel, you're a District 1 commander, so
yes, sir.
Talk about your role as a commander at the district level a little bit.
Well, I have 28 posts in my district. My area covers from the Michigan or the Indiana line to Wallbridge, Ohio, from Michigan down to Arlington.
So quite a good chunk of territory.
All the area that I travel in between. Right now, I'm getting ready to go to post tomorrow night to visit, see how they're doing, and talk about membership with them, trying to get their membership up. And that's been my main goal, that and getting their reports in for everything,
paperwork.
So they could become all state, which is a great award.
And it's an interesting question, because recent generations, mine and that sort of thing, tend not to be joiners the way people used to be, and we see that at all different levels, whether it's schools, whatever kind of organizations. When we come back, let's talk a little about how you go about making sure that recent veterans join and understand the benefits of that, because that's a big part of what we want to talk with you about. We'll be back in just a moment here on The Journal. Thank you for staying with us here on The Journal. We're talking with some representatives of the Veterans of Foreign Wars, VFW, and in that last segment we kind of talked about the fact that membership obviously is a challenge, it's an opportunity. Recent generations aren't joiners for a lot of reasons. So talk a little about the ways that you can help people, younger veterans coming back, their families, that sort of thing, so that they can become members, and the things you do to make that possible.
Let me hit that real quick, and then I'm going to turn it over to one of my younger.
Okay.
That might have a little different insight than what I do.
Okay. All right.
I know when I came back from Vietnam, I got out in 1970. I did not join the VFW until the late 80s. It was 88, 89 when I first joined.
Okay.
And it was because I was busy with my family. I was busy with scouts with my kids. I was busy at church with my wife and her things. And
on the list of things to do,
okay. Other things need to be, and today is no different. Today's returning vets are busy doing their own thing. What we have to do is what? How do we get them?
We have to get them interested in the Veterans of Foreign Wars. And once again, the programs, seeing what we do and getting them involved. If we could just get that one member, that, okay, they signed up a year ago, but we haven't seen them in any meetings. If we could just get that one member to maybe spearhead one of our programs, the Voice of Democracy or Patriots Pen. And I concur that, we're busy.
Sure.
The younger generation is busy. But I joined because I liked the camaraderie. I was in the Army Reserves, and I enjoyed that once a month when I got to hang out with my soldiers.
Yeah, with your colleagues. Yeah.
Exactly. It's different from any other work environment that you will ever find.
Sure. Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I wonder too, is it different because of the way people are deployed versus the way they might have been in a Vietnam or World War or Korea? Because it seems like people come and go in a different way. And is that so they maybe don't develop quite that same unit sort of feel? And maybe I'm leaping to a big. But
well, that does play a part in it.
Yeah.
Simply because they do come and go, which they weren't before. So we're talking, if you're talking about the active duty or the reserve or National Guard or something, they're still active duty and they're members at the same time, but they're constantly going and coming back. They may go down to somewhere for a year or so at this military base, and then they're back home again, and then they're gone again. Whereas before, usually they waited until they were out before they started joining. And I think that's a big difference too. But the camaraderie is a big part of it.
Sure.
The military is like nothing else. And you don't come home from serving overseas and start talking to your next door neighbor who's never been there
about what's
going on.
Right.
But once a month you can go down to the VFW or whatever organization you belong to that's a veteran service organization and talk to people that talk your language.
That understand where you're coming from. Even if you don't talk about it. You feel you're in a comfort zone there. You know you're with people who understand.
And that's a big part of joining it.
And that's a really good point, because no one who hasn't been there can't relate. I mean, no matter how you can explain it to them, whatever, it's not the same. Not the same.
They can't relate to it because the younger guys that are coming in, you know, we try to put out like a newsletter to them from our post, VFW post. And we put it out there to, you know, whoever lives there. And we let them know what we're doing, okay? It's just like last week we had a Halloween party for the kids and adults.
Sure, yeah.
Okay, so that was something to get the family active in. And it's some of the ways that we work to do this. It's like we have a feather party coming up this month, okay? It's open to the public, and we like to, it kind of brings in the younger vets, and they'll sit there and they'll talk a little bit to us, but not much. They'll sit there and I'll say, yeah, I'm from I was served in Vietnam and that, and they kind of look at me like, okay, maybe I'm more comfortable sitting here next to him than I would be in a hall or someplace next to people, next to strangers.
Yeah, because they say you have a connection there that is kind of an unspoken connection right away without even having.
Exactly.
And I think, you know, and it is maybe because of the way media treats these, you know, these conflicts now, it's a little bit different, but it is still, you know, and people come back with, I think, you know, a lot of the challenges that veterans always have. It's just now that it's, you know, hopefully we have better approaches to that and better services, but it's, you know, it's a lot of the same things that people come back and have.
It's a readjustment part is what it is. And with me, it took me almost a year before I felt completely at home. When I first come back, I was called baby killer and spit on and everything else. And it bothered me. But you know, that was a war that was not really wanted by the people. So now we have these conflicts going on, where the younger guys are going, and the older guys like us are looking at them and say, "Come on back, man, have a good time."
Let's talk, and we'll all work together and all be able to relate to this and get through and make this returning easier for you. And that's a big part of. I know that several years ago we had done a reconnect thing because we had a lot of people coming back from Persian Gulf and from Afghanistan, and that adjustment was difficult. It was organizations like the VFW that stepped forward and said, "Hey, here's how we can help you. You know, we'll help you publicize this. Here are the programs we have to make it, to get people to know, hey, look, there's support out there, and there's, besides just the support, here's a chance to kind of be able to just enjoy all the other activities that we do."
And that is one other aspect that we work on in recent years that we've really pushed, and that's working with the Department of Defense to start working with the veterans prior to them being released and sent home, so that when they do get home, they know what to expect. They know where to go. They've got a little bit of education on how to do a job resume and how to continue and carry on with their life without a gap.
Yeah, and take the skills, because obviously people that come out of the military, I know my father-in-law was a mechanic on B-29s in the Korean War, and he came out, he took that technical training and then worked on diesel engines and trucks and things like that. That became his career. He loved doing it, but his first taste of it was being a mechanic on B-29s, and he took that and turned it into a career. And that's what you want to be able to take those skills you learn and know that there is a place for them back here, and and whatever you want to call this, not whatever back in
civilization,
civilian life, whatever the right term is.
We're back in the right world.
And now, you talk about some of the activities that are available. I know there's all those things you mentioned with the scholarships and things like that. What are some of the other things? I know scouting's involved. VFW supports scouting, things of that nature. Are there other things that we haven't talked about like that the VFW participates in, or is the kind of the anchor point for, which brings people in?
There is one program that you don't hear about a lot because it's run and organized and taken care of by the auxiliary, and it has been for years, and that's a patriotic art competition every year, and that's at the high school level, and they have scholarship prizes for that as well. But that's been going on for quite a number of years. It doesn't have quite the publicity that the Voice of Democracy does, which we've been doing since before World War II. But there's that. We have a Scout of the Year, which is not just Boy Scouts, it's also Girl Scouts, Z Scouts, whatever Scout, and any of those that are still youth under the age of 18 and have reached and earned the highest medal rank in their organization is eligible for that. And we do that every year. We don't have actual programs other than we do go out to the schools, we talk to the youth, we go to the organizations, work with them, just one-on-one to help them with their programs.
Okay. Well, we come back, we can talk more about some of those things. And also, too, we've got Honor Guard and we've got Honor Flight I want to touch on a little bit, too. And anything else, something we haven't touched on, we'll get to that as well. Back in just a moment here on The Journal on WBGU-TV. Thanks for staying with us on The Journal. We're talking with representatives of Veterans of Foreign Wars of America, Department of Ohio. And I know, Mr. Wetzel, you were talking about the fact that you were going to go out and you visit posts. You're a District 1 commander. And when you talk with them about membership, what are some of the things that you, in detail, kind of help them with, or the resource you provide? What do you talk with them about specifically?
I go in, and when I talk to them, I say, okay, your membership is at 70%, let's say. And you have like 250 members that are not paid. I'll look at them, I'll say, look, send them a postcard. Ask them to come back and let's get your dues paid.
Sure.
And this way, that if they get their reports in and they make 100% in membership, they make all state.
Okay.
So, which is an honor.
Sure, yeah.
And if they go over their membership and still have all the reports in, they could make All-American, which is the highest honor that you can get in the VFW.
One of the groups, and I know there was another group, and I think you called them VSOs, we were talking about a little earlier. Talk a little about those particular people, because obviously they're an important part of this operation as well.
Veteran service officers is what we were referring to. Most organizations, the larger ones, American Legion, DAV, and us, and so forth, we have them, and their purpose is to serve the veteran and help them find their way through the red tape and everything that's involved with the Veterans Administration, and get the benefits and services and pay, disability if they belong to them. That they're entitled to.
Exactly.
Yes, exactly. That Congress has said this is yours, and VA tends to not like to spend that money
unless they
and they will have a tendency to fight you. Not always, but the service officers are there to get through that.
To kind of liaison and
they
move
help
through
them
the bumps.
Initial application, which is extremely important, because if every T's not crossed,
Yeah,
every
then-
I's not dotted, it gets put on a stack somewhere to be reviewed, and it could be years before they look
get
at
back
that
to you.
stack again.
Yeah.
So it's extremely important, and they're trained professionals. They really are. They go to extensive training just to get certified, and they do have to be certified to work with the VA. And they have extensive training every year to update and so forth. So they go through a lot. They are breed apart to deal with this on a daily basis. I could never do it. The stress level is way up there, way out of my league. And I hold these guys in esteem, but and some gals too. But Ohio has some of the best ones, I feel. They are all ranked high in their training, their scores of the training, which goes to Washington every year. And they're there to help our veterans, not just VFW veterans, all veterans.
Everybody, sure. Because I think, as you said, the one thing you want to make sure, you want to make that path as easy as possible, and as manageable as possible for veterans coming back, because they've earned all those things.
The one thing I will say is, if you are a veteran and you're not signed up with the VA, go register.
Do it.
Even if you don't have any problems. Go register so that you're there when the time does come, and you do need.
Get
registered.
And I guess when you look at membership, when you talk about that, how do you explain those benefits? I mean, it's got to be there, because there are a lot of them, and well deserved. I mean, how do you go about making sure people understand what is available to them?
Well, I think you start with the conversation, you know, whether it's at a Buddy Poppy event or something like that, and you start a conversation with that potential veteran, and you're talking with them, and you find out, oh, well, I'm not a veteran, but my grandpa was. Well, then, you can be an auxiliary member then. Or I am a veteran, and I've gone through the VA, and now I've got an appeal. Things like that. So usually we like to bring up the veterans service officers and say, hey, they can help you also with the appeal process. So.
It's kind of starting and finding out
just
basic where they are and where they are at the moment in the system or not in the system.
I think it's also important to, when you initially start talking to a veteran, be it just you ran into standing in line at the grocery store, you start that conversation. You have the tendency to be able to recognize each other without ever seeing anything that says I'm a veteran. It's just something about them. You start the conversation, and you get to that point. But giving them the information to look themselves for the things that they need to know. You mentioned our website, VFWOH.org. The national website is even easier, VFW.org. And both of them have lots of resources, especially national. They have, and they have them available to us, printed, that we can hand out at various different places that we go to for membership drives, listing all the things that the VFW does every year, how much money we spend on this program, that program, how many dollars we've given away in scholarships to our youth. We have a separate brochure that lists our top priorities, that when we go to Washington and talk to the congressman there, we tell them what we want them to do, as well as offer our help to them. And we've done that. We've had congressmen call us and say, "Can you help me with this?" And we try to work together, because we want things from them, so we want to keep them happy also. But the literature that's available on the websites, we want to make sure every veteran has an opportunity to go look at that if they want.
So. And that's because I was looking at the website. I mean, there's a lot of resources there, and the same thing too with the national site, a lot of resources. What about people who maybe don't go computer, don't go technology? Can they walk into a VFW in their town or in their neighborhood and say, hey, they can find a resource right there easily as well. So it isn't just if they can't get to a computer or they don't feel comfortable that way, they can do that also.
And like any organization, the success of a specific post all boils down to the people in that post. The organization believes this, but if you've got 6 people in this post not believing it,
it's tough to make it.
And if you turn off somebody that comes in one time, it's hard to get them back into another one.
Yeah.
So that is another thing that we work on constantly is
that
getting
first,
the post to do what they're supposed to in the proper manner, because it's important to us.
because that first impression
yes,
is
exactly.
They always say
Exactly.
first impression.
It's like in our post.
Sure.
We have a new member come in, and a lot of the veterans from our post will go up and say, "Hello, my name is so and so," and shake their hand in that, and say, "Is there anything we can do for you?"
Yeah, and kind of give them make them feel comfortable, and start up that conversation, as you guys were saying, to kind of get them to say, okay, I feel comfortable here, and these guys are going to help me.
Well, and I get that on the road. My car that I drive has VFW on the side, on the doors, and so people are constantly stopping and saying, "Oh, okay, hey, I got a question. I've got a problem. What do I do? Where do I go?" And first thing I do is usually give them my business card, so if anything else, they can always get back in touch with me. But I try and find out what their problem is and shoot them in the right direction.
And connect them to the right place.
I've run into people from 6 states away, so I can't say, go into your county council and talk to them, because they don't belong in Ohio. They're somewhere else just traveling
but you can at least get them pointed in the right direction.
Right.
Here's what you need to look for in Iowa.
And that national website is always one of the things that I make sure they understand is there, because they can go through that to contact the national office, and those people will pick up the phone and talk to you and steer you in the right direction, get you to where you need to in your own state. So,
great. Good. Well, I appreciate you so much for coming in. Appreciate the efforts you've made, not just as VFW members, obviously in your service careers as well. We appreciate that beyond words. David Root, Colleen Wiley, and Hank Wessel, thank you so much for being here. Real quick. Last word.
Twice you've said Veterans of Foreign Wars of America.
Okay.
Veterans of Foreign Wars of the United States.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you for correcting me. Okay, I appreciate that. Okay, no problem. Thank you. And again, thank you so much for your service and what you're doing right now as well.
Appreciate you
much
having
appreciated. And you can check us out at WBGU.org. And of course, you can watch us every week at WBGU-TV Public Television. We'll see you again next time.